The house is haunted and you are the ghost. Hi, my name is Emily, or La Movie Mija. I'm a part-time filmmaker, full-time movie lover, and this is my review of Presence. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for checking out my video. Let's get into my review of Presence, a 2024 thriller. A family moves into a suburban house and becomes convinced they're not alone. The film is directed by Soderbergh and written by David Koepp, starring Lucy Liu, Julia Fox, Chris Sullivan, Callina Liang, Wes Mulholland, and Eddy Maday. Part theater, part video game, Presence is a cutting-edge new ghost story from a director who isn't afraid to dabble in between big-scale projects and smaller ones like this. The film takes place in the new home of Rebecca and Chris and their two children, Tyler and Chloe. At first glance, it's a classic horror movie setup. You have a traumatized family moving into a new home that just happens to be haunted. It's as forward-thinking as florals in spring. However, in its execution, Presence takes a huge risk and the payoff is stunning. The film is told entirely from the point of view of this entity that's trapped within the house, making you, the viewer, feel like you are the entity. What seems gimmicky at first quickly establishes itself as a modern innovation for the genre. Comparisons to films with similar premises like In a Violent Nature, which I also reviewed, are understandable. But when I say point of view of the entity, I mean the camera is the ghost, and we are literally seeing through the ghost's eyes. The camera/entity has its own character and emotions in the film as well, and you can quickly learn the language of the film and, more importantly, the layout of the home, which I feel like is a standardized practice that we need in every haunted horror movie house ever. In its opening scenes, I feel like learning the layout of a house, especially if it's a single location haunted horror movie like this, is so important, and it really helps with contextualizing the tension in the story. Another compelling aspect of this POV choice is that as a result, the film has many long takes. As you're going in and out of consciousness as this entity, there are many long takes, uninterrupted, uncut takes and scenes in which the characters are just interacting and moving around the house without any cutting away. They're just going about their private lives and they think they're alone, and we're just left there to observe. This also means that there's not really any kind of close-ups or wide shots in this film. It's all told from that singular perspective, that aspect ratio that makes it feel like you are looking through the eyes of another entity. This brings me to the performances of the film. I thought that the cast assembled for this was pretty spectacular. Everyone fit their character and had the right chemistry between each other, especially in the main family unit. Julia Fox as a realtor was an inspired choice. Lucy Liu as mom Rebecca is this perfect combination of an overworked, over-involved mom, and her husband in the film, Chris Sullivan, is a great counter to her type A personality, and he provides a lot of levity throughout the film. And in her feature debut, Callina Liang is the heart of the film. A lot of the family struggles are connected to a trauma that she experienced, and she is at the center of much of the action. She is fantastic in this role, and I'm excited to see more from her. At the end of my screening of Presence, a live-streamed Q&A with the stars and the director of the film revealed that the film was shot entirely in 11 days. 11 days? That is not only wildly impressive from a production standpoint, but very fitting for the nature of a film like this. Because of the long takes, because of the nature of the camera needing to be a character itself, it makes sense that there would be a lot of choreography and blocking involved in the preparation of this film. And when you have time for things like that, understanding where the camera is going to be, where your actors are going to be, it makes actually filming the scene much less time consuming to capture. And it's all set in one location, which of course reduces the need to move your crew from different locations, and it also helps keep the story itself small in scope, and it is a critical detail of the story because you are a ghost haunting a house. At an hour and 25-minute runtime, the film waltzes between horror and drama in a very delicate dance. There are even a handful of comedic moments throughout that I wasn't expecting, but it was a nice reprieve from the tension of being an entity for that entire time. There's also a good level of intrigue and mystery that keeps the momentum forward moving as you try to piece together the bits of conversation that you pick up throughout. Because you are one of the characters, you are limited to the information that you get to take in, that you get to observe, and you're not privy to the information of events that occur outside of the house, and I think that makes this a rewarding watch for very eagle-eyed viewers. You get to pick up all these little clues and hints as to what makes this family tick, what traumatized them in the past, and what they're going through now. If you're even the slightest bit intrigued, if you're a Lucy Liu fan, if you're a horror fan, Presence is a fantastic film with a very low-stakes risk because it's a really brief runtime, under 90 minutes, and it never overstays its welcome, unlike some actual ghosts. Before we continue on, I'd just like to take a moment to invite you to like and subscribe to my channel. I post a new movie review every single week, and sometimes I even take you to the movies with me. And for even more movie news, personal insights, and yes, my reactions to the Oscar nominations that were announced this week, you can follow me on all social media platforms at Movie Mija. All right, this is your spoiler warning. From here on out, we're going to be talking about the identity of the entity, the events that happen in the final act, and what it all means. Now, if you're like me, you probably spend a majority of the runtime of this film trying to guess if you can figure out who or what this presence could be. So let's explore the ending, the big reveal, and what it all means. To recap, in the final act, Chloe and Ryan devise a plan to hook up while her parents are out of town. The only issue, Tyler, her older brother, will be home, and he would definitely not be okay with his friend hooking up with his little sister. So they come up with a plan where Ryan is going to mildly drug Tyler, knock him out so that they can have their privacy to hook up. The night comes, the parents are away, and Ryan comes over as planned. He joins Tyler for a drink, and he slips something into his drink when he offers him a refill, and once Tyler is knocked out, he makes his way upstairs to Chloe. This is when he reveals his evil intentions, his sinister past, and he confesses to being the person responsible for the death of 2 girls that Chloe once knew. His other victims, whose names I'm so sorry I cannot remember, I believe were discovered by their families who thought they died because of a fentanyl overdose. We now know that Ryan is the person who drugged the girls, staged this overdose, and used a little piece of plastic to suffocate them without leaving any evidence to suspect foul play beyond overdose. Yikes. All right, now's a good time to share with you a little theory that I cooked up while walking through the events of this last act. Hear me out and let me know what you think about this. What if Tyler was already dead when Ryan drugged him? For this to work, the following assumptions have to be true. Number 1, Tyler was always the ghost. Now, there are other theories floating around that the spirit was her friend, who was one of 2 victims murdered by Ryan. I, however, don't ever think that the spirit was the friend. I am in the camp that believes that Tyler was always the entity that we experience the events of the film through. Assumption number 2, when the medium comes over to assess the house, she mentions someone being trapped and lost. And she's not just talking about lost in space, she's talking about lost in time. Like they don't know past, present, future when they are. So Tyler always being the ghost aligns where the presence first awakens in Chloe's bedroom, aka the scene of the crime, and how the spirit felt angry at times when trying to defend Chloe both against himself, Tyler, when he was being an ass towards her, and Ryan when he was trying to assault her. Under those assumptions, is it possible that when the lights flicker on and off to wake him back up, could this be the spirit trying to re-enter his body? Did Tyler die twice? If he's not beholden to the rules of space and time, why couldn't this be the case? There's just something about that scene with the lights flickering on and the way that the point of view zooms back into Tyler's body. It feels like something momentous happens there beyond just Tyler waking up. My only issue with my own theory is if that's true, that would make the rest of the action in this scene break the point of view of the rest of the film, because from that point on through the crashing through the window, we are following behind Tyler to his and Ryan's climactic end. So I want to know, do you think Tyler died before or after, or died again once he hit the pavement? Let me know, sound off in the comments below. Back to the ending of the film. We see the family once more after this tragic night, and it's their last moments in the house before they complete their move. Mourning mother Rebecca feels called to the mirror in the other room, and she walks over and sees her son Tyler in the reflection. This is a big moment because only Rebecca sees him, and immediately after, we as the spirit of Tyler are finally able to leave the house. Tyler ascending into the great beyond. What I've learned from ghost stories like Casper, we are beholden to the earth and the people to which we have unfinished business with, and I feel like this is Tyler's spirit being attached to the house, being attached to his sister in order to be a person that can protect her. Throughout the film, we see Tyler struggling to feel any kind of affection or care for his sister as she's going through these very traumatic events. He often blames her for the own issues that he has to go through, like moving to a new house. And it's only through conversations with his father that he finally builds some empathy towards his sister. And I feel like this was his ghost trying to atone for the sins of fighting with her, making her feel so and just overall being not the best brother for her. Now, do I think the friend who was murdered and whose name I can't remember, I'm so sorry, could have been the ghost at some point? I don't think the friend was ever the ghost throughout this film. There are a couple of actions the presence enacts on the house and family that signals to me that it was someone who cared about her, but in a very specific way. You can definitely tell that the entity deeply cares for Chloe, but it just doesn't know how to show it. And I feel like a good friend of Chloe's would know how to be there for her. The first action that communicates this to me is when Chloe takes a shower before school. She's leaving her books scattered on the bed, and it's then when the presence decides to tidy up her books and stack them on her dresser for her, which feels like a very mentory or adult-like thing to do. At this point, Chloe suspects it's her deceased friend, but the stacking of the books, it just feels like a caretaker presence to me. I was convinced at this point that it was going to be either her mother or her brother. The other action by the presence that made me suspect her mom or her brother were indeed the entity was when Tyler's room gets wrecked. I believe this event happens after or during the dinner in which Tyler really goes off on his sister, telling her how much he hates her and how much he's frustrated by the situation that her trauma has put him in. And we hear all of that ruckus upstairs, and that spirit just goes in on his room. He never does anything like that to Chloe's room or any other part of the house. It felt very connected. It felt like a rage that was driven by disappointment. So I thought that rage and that violence could be interpreted as Tyler trying to shut himself up because he's being such a big to his sister. And it would align with the motivations of the entity being tied to Chloe and the house in order to protect her. And this is a moment in which he is not protecting her, not being the big brother, the big protector that he could be. Wow. Okay. All in all, I really, really did enjoy this film. If you couldn't tell, I thought that there was a right level of mystery, of intrigue. I know we never get complete conclusions on what is exactly going on with the mom at work. It seems like she has some legal drama. The husband's Googling or calling his lawyer, trying to figure out if he will get in trouble for the same things that she's doing at work. And I know that some people are going to be frustrated that they don't get a complete answer there, but I like that the film didn't feel compelled to tie up that event. I think it adds a good amount of texture to her character, and because we are beholden to only the point of view of the entity, it makes sense that the son doesn't really know what's going on with his mom's work, and it makes sense that we never get any answers about it because sometimes death happens suddenly. Death happens when we least expect it, and it happens in an instance, and you don't always have all of the answers when you cross over. And I really appreciate that the characterization of the camera as the entity felt that confusion and felt like it didn't exactly know where or when it was when the movie begins, and it really warrants another rewatch of this movie. Now that I know exactly who the ghost is, I would love to revisit this film and just see how all of it connects together on a second watch. But that is my review of Presence. I thought this was an incredible, innovative ghost story. It's also really short and it moves really quickly, and I just also selfishly love seeing Lucy Liu in a character capacity like this again. I think she is fantastic, and I just love the way that this film came together. I thought it was a huge risk, and I think the risk paid off. But let me know what you thought about Presence in the comments below. Okay, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!